It's open to everyone. I think it's just a virtue.
It's like
I go to Burkland all the time. Yeah. I think it's just
identifying only space.
Happy Women's History Month.
Yeah.
Yes, our service will be centered and focused around women today, so it's going to be super exciting. We're going to sing a few songs for you guys, for y'all. If you're new here at Shop, we're very relaxed about it. You can stand, you can sit, you can listen, you can sing along if you know the songs. So yes, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
God our Father, God our Father, give us daily bread, blessing our hands and comfort in our hands. God our Mother, leading us into peace, drawing and comforting all those in need. Hallowed be thy name. Hallowed be thy name. Hallowed be thy name in all the earth. Jesus, Father. Jesus, bright, God in our very shed, deliver us and grant places of rest. Jesus, Savior, calling us from the grave, King of fallen, bring me the light of day. Hallowed be thy name. Hallowed be thy name. Hallowed be thy name in all the earth. In all the earth. In all the in all the earth. In all the
Two in the morning, and I'm still awake in my bed. I can't shake these lines, they keep running around in my head. What if I saw me the way that you see me? What if I believed it was true? What if I traded shame and self-hatred?
Welcome to Shop. My name is Donna. I'm one of the pastors here. And we are a Jesus-centered community, reimagining inclusive spaces to rest, restore, belong, and become, hence, the drawing tables. So if you need to rest and draw or doodle or do something with your hands or fidget, those tables are available for you. Well, welcome, everyone. You might be wondering, oh, wow, there's a lot of kids here. Well, that's because we do kids and adults in the same room before we dismiss them to kids ministry. So what we're going to do today to dismiss them is we're actually going to do a guided mindfulness practice. So for the next 4 more weeks, we are going to be doing a little mindfulness practice for the kids and for adults alike, so you can join in. And this is just something that we are participating in with a bunch of other churches with kids ministries. They're trying to test this out and see how it impacts kids. And so we're like, sure, we'll help out, we'll help with you. So we're a go with the flow kind of group, so we're going to do it. And it's on social justice. And so this week we'll be talking in our little mindfulness practice on climate change. Fun times. So what we are going to do is I'm going to open up an invitation to the kids. Kids? Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi. Okay, I'm going to sit on this stool. And you have permission, kids, listen up, to either come up here with me and participate, or stay back there if you feel more comfortable, or invite your parents to come with you so you feel comfortable. So Dottie and her daughter, and it looks like Jesse and Dottie and their kids are going to come up. And you're welcome to sit right here, over there. We got some room. No pressure. Oh, yes. See, this is incredible. Thank you. Thank you so much for participating. Wow, we're getting more kids. This is amazing. You can also play over there if you want, kids. Okay, Renzo, wonderful. Goodness, we've got a little newborn coming up. Oh, that's too much for my heart. Oh, that's precious angels. Okay. All right, so friends, you're welcome to participate. We're gonna, instead of a kids time, we're gonna do mindfulness practice. You're welcome to keep your eyes open by softening your gaze. You can also close your eyes and find a sturdy, steady sitting position. So you can put your feet down on the ground if that works for you. You can place your hands in your lap if that works for you. Children, kids, you're welcome to do this as well. Okay, here we go. All right, friends, take a deep breath in and let it out. Okay, let's do it again once more. Breathe in and let it out. So if you're closing your eyes, imagine you and a friend are walking around a city, and you feel the hot sun beating down on you. You spot a bank sign that says the temperature is 102. You look around for a shady spot, but don't see any trees. There's just concrete and asphalt. You wish it would start raining so you could cool off a little. And then you hear a car with a very noisy engine go by. As it passes, a cloud of gray exhaust follows out. It smells stinky and tickles your throat. Your friend, who has asthma, begins coughing. You wonder how bad the air quality is today. You continue walking and see an overflowing sewer. There are plastic water bottles and other trash blocking the drain. How many bottles can you count? You wonder how much stuff is thrown away every day. Now, near the end of your walk, you see some people holding signs that say, "Save our Earth." You walk over to them. They tell you that pollution and trash are hurting the environment. They ask you how you can help fight climate change. What do you say to them? Think about it. How would you like to help? Take another deep breath in and let it out. Open your eyes when you're ready. So this is a little call and response time. Kids and adults alike are welcome to participate. But I'd love to just hear, we'd love to just hear what came up for you during that time. You're welcome to shout it out, raise your hand. Kids, you're welcome to tell me what was going on for you too. You love Mama. That's beautiful. That's a great thing to think about when you're doing mindfulness practice. So much you love your Mama.
I was just thinking about the big cities and the magnitude of garbage and dirt, but kind of simultaneously, the ability to make a difference.
Yeah, the dance between those two
really impressed on me the hope that this affects all of us. Right? I think sometimes it can be very easy for me to feel like it's a problem that is affecting my life and it feels disconnected in a way, but remembering like every single one of us in here, it's something that impacts all of our lives, and I think there can be some hope in that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Kids, you can now go with your kidmin leaders. Where's Megan? Megan, raising her hand, and Deb. So feel free to go on out. And if parents, if you would like, you can assist your kids in the room, get a feeler of it, and then come back in. That's what you feel most comfortable with. Wow, a lot of fun kid stuff we've been doing, and we're not done. We're actually going to keep going with some kid stuff. So, as a community, we've been reading. Bye, kids. You can also stay too. Whatever you feel comfortable doing. Yeah. So, we've been going over in a children's book or Bible called the Book of Belonging, and that's been our series this season. And we've been reading a story in that Book of Belonging every week and doing a sermon off of it. And so I'm going to get us started by reading this story today. This is called The 5 Fearless Sisters. And what better story to get us started for Women's History Month, am I right? Okay, so let me get this book. I'm going to sit on my stool again, and we'll get started. So this comes from the stories in the Bible from Numbers 27:36 and Joshua 17. During those wandering wilderness days, inside the vast desert, encampment of the people God goes with, nestled among the tents of the Manasseh tribe, in the tent of Zelophehad. I've been told whenever you don't know how to pronounce the word, you just say it confidently, and people just go, yeah. There lived 5 fearless sisters, Mala, Noah, Hogla, and Milcah, and Tirzah. Girls so smart and kind that they moved with courage wherever they went. After all, do you know that courage means to tell the story of who you are with your whole heart? Those girls knew who they were, and it made them brave. And wherever they started to forget and feel afraid or lost, all they had to do was repeat their names. Daughters of Zelophehad, family of Manasseh, camp of Israel, the people God goes with. They were snug and secure at the center of so much belonging. But one horrible day, Zelophehad died, and the sisters found themselves afraid and confused. The rules in those days said that only a male could keep his father's things, including his name, his tent, his animals, his money, and most important, his place in the promised land, where they were headed. So without a brother, the girls felt their layers of belonging start to slip away. Daughters of nobody, in the tent of no one, from the family of nobodies, the people God goes with. It just didn't add up. What will happen to us, worried Tirzah. She was the youngest and was quite used to being taken care of. Will we have to leave our tent, live with another family, give up our special place in the promised land? Milcah and Hogla were filled with questions too. They had often daydreamed together about the promised land, wondering what their new home would look like, what types of food they would grow, how tall the trees would be. This isn't right, said Noah. She was the boldest of them, and always filled with good ideas. She huddled her sisters up in a tight circle, and together they made a plan. The next morning, they walked arm in arm to the tent of meeting, the place where the priests gathered and God met with Moses. The sisters had talked late into the night. They knew who they were. They were the daughters of Zelophehad, from the tribe of Manasseh, and the people of Israel. But most of all, they knew that they were loved and valued by God, who invites us to wrestle. They knew that even without boys in their family, God was still with them. And when you know who you are and whose you are, you know how to ask for what is right, even when it's scary. Finally, it was their time to speak. Mala cleared her throat, took a deep breath, lifted her chin, and exclaimed what they had talked about all night, that their father had died but had no sons. That Mala, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, and Tirzah loved God with their whole hearts and dreamed of their special place of belonging among the people of Israel. that they understood that the law said their inheritance was lost to them now. "This is not right," said the 5 fearless sisters. They stood in front of Moses, Eleazar, and all the other important people with important jobs and said, "Give us our land. We belong just as much as any sons would. We know who we are, we know whose we are, and we know it's right for us to belong." The important people with important jobs looked at one another. "Girls as important as boys? This is a new idea. Let's see what God has to say about that." So Moses went to meet with God, and what do you think God said? Of course! God said to Moses, "These 5 sisters are right. Give them their inheritance just as they asked. And while you're at it, write this down and make it part of the law. Daughters have as much a right to land as sons." Moses came back with the news, and word spread from one tent to another. Mala, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, and Tirzah had done it. Those 5 fearless sisters believed who God said they were more than they believed anyone else. And they changed the future for many girls to come. I'm going to welcome up Dottie, and we're going to be chatting a little bit about this together. Thanks, Donna. Wow, what an awesome story. We're going to, oh my goodness, who am I? We're going to shift our stools over here because Donna and I are going to do this almost podcast style today. We're going to talk about this story a little bit more. For those of you that have been here for the last couple months really, we've been talking about the Book of Belonging. We're talking about this story of God from the beginning, the people of Israel that is at times a little complicated. We talked about Genesis 1, our first week, that we are made in the image of God. Then we talked about Hagar in the wilderness. And last time we talked about manna and God providing, and what does it mean to trust God. So this week we're talking about this story of 5 fearless sisters. I'm going to just scoot back a little bit. And it's a really amazing story. Is anyone familiar with this story? Okay. We had one confident hand and one kind of. So yeah, I'm actually am not familiar with this story. This is a story I never studied, not even in seminary, and which is surprising. And it's a beautiful story about these sisters coming together, finding their agency, and saying, this land is actually ours too. It's really powerful, and as we've studied some of these Hebrew Bible stories over the last couple months, we know that land has a really key part of identity in the stories. And so for these sisters to say, no, we're actually equal and we deserve the land is a really, really important thing of the story. It is a great story of women coming together and finding agency and power. So we are not going to, and again, throughout this series, some of you have learned new Hebrew words. We've learned about Elohim and Yahweh and Ruach. Last time we did a mindfulness practice. Today we're not going into the text necessarily much more. We're going to let it inspire and shape our conversation. And we're not necessarily going to do a mindfulness practice. We're going to chat. We're going to talk about our experiences as 2 women in ministry. And at the end of our time chatting, we will do our breakout time where you can talk to your neighbors, and then we'll finish with communion. So, yeah, that's how it's going to go. So, Donna. Yes, you are a woman.
What?
I am. I would love it if you shared a little bit about your experience in ministry and maybe some of the challenges of getting here. We're not going to tell the whole story, but just a little snapshot. Yeah. Well, my first jump into ministry was when I was, I think, 9 years old, and I loved doing kids ministry. I just wanted to find a way to help out and serve in my church. And I think it was 9 years old as well when I was in kids ministry, and a little boy went up to me and said, "Did you know women or girls can't be pastors?" And I went, "No, that's not true." That was my first time hearing this. And so then I just went to everyone and said, no, and I was protesting the whole time. And then I remember when I was 17, and I was in youth group, and it was my senior year, and there were all these, the youth pastor had said, we're gonna have the senior boys do a sermon each. And then he said, I think every young man should be able to preach at least once in their lives. And I was like, yeah, like, okay. And then it didn't register to me how sad it made me feel. Like, I was very sad to hear that. So I just remember those being really important key moments for me. And then when I got to college, I experienced egalitarianism, or like some sort of equality in ministry for the first time, kind of. So women, believe it or not, I was in campus ministry, so it wasn't really, sometimes they call it like parachurch ministry, really fancy. So women were allowed to preach, women were allowed to lead as much as men, and it was my first time seeing women preach at a weekly meeting. Although they didn't call it preaching, right, because it wasn't technically church. So it was their way of getting around that little thing. So I grew up very conservative, if you didn't already gather. That just meant women couldn't do this, couldn't be pastors, couldn't preach, couldn't lead over men. That was kind of my upbringing. It wasn't until, I think it was my 20s, when I started to find church spaces that allowed women, even that word is silly, to do things. And yeah, that was kind of the pushback I got. So I didn't really start thinking about becoming a pastor until I was in my late 20s. I'm 32. That was not long ago. It took that long for me to even think about this.
There's a lot there that we can unpack, but we'll leave that. For myself, I grew up in the church. I have often called myself an evangelical thoroughbred with my upbringing, and so I was asked to preach in front of my youth group for the first time when I was 14 years old, and I preached a sermon on it. What does it mean to wrestle with God? Isn't that great for now? That is my life. It's great. Anyways, when I was 14, I felt called to ministry. This like, oh my goodness, this is it for me. But I also knew that women weren't in leadership in pastoral positions, and this is where Donna and I, of course, are a little different. Donna saying no. Me, as a 1 on the Enneagram, was like, okay, I am not allowed to, therefore I won't. Like, I just kind of had this foreclosure, and a lot of sadness too, of I really feel called to do this, and it's not right for me as a female to be in ministry. And so then I went to college at a Christian university where I was introduced to things like Jesus feminist and feminism 101 through a biblical lens. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I am equal. Wow, Jesus was totally go women, you can do this. And studying the Bible and seeing all these awesome stories, it was really so enlivening. And I remember going home to my home church one summer to intern and telling my pastor, okay, so I think I'm allowed to be here. I think I'm allowed to do this ministry thing. And he's like, yes, totally. I'm like, so where are you all at with this? And he's like, oh, well, we believe that women are equal. The church just isn't ready. Yeah. So for me, in my earlier wrestling with my own call to ministry, so to say, it was always up against an inconvenience for the system, right? So even though I was like, of course I'm equal, I'm a Bible nerd, as some of you know, I belong here. But man, it's too inconvenient for the church. They'll lose donors if women are in leadership, are pastors. And so the church isn't ready became the message for me, as I'm too much of an inconvenience for this time. And then another challenge too, it's man, all the language that we're using is around a male God. So if God is a man, then shoot, I'm out even more. The church isn't ready for me, God's a guy. I don't know where I belong in this. So those were some of the challenges that I had early on so in my early 20s around what does it mean to be a female in ministry and find this, yeah. So we're going to talk about some things that shifted though for us. And some key features of what shifted was solidarity with other women. So Donna, I would love to hear what shifted. How did you find strength in community and learning from other women in terms of this whole thing?
Yeah, I'll never forget campus ministry. Let's go back there. My freshman year, I was in they call them weekly meeting, and I was watching a woman, so to speak, preach for the first time ever I've seen. And they called it speaking, right? And men got up and walked out. And I just remember seeing these men walk out. I was actually friends with some of them, so it was confusing for me. But that same woman, and I remember that really affected her, became one of my mentors in this campus ministry eventually. And she allowed me, again, that word allowed, it's so silly, allowed me to wrestle with God and my questions around women in ministry and even LGBTQ inclusion in ministry, which was so wild for this community, for me to be able to even ask questions and for her to be like, yeah, and not give me an answer. So she was the first person to allow me to ask questions, to not find them, oh my gosh, she's walking away from the faith, like all this scary. And then I also started wrestling with the Bible and how I understood the Bible. And this was all in college. And if I didn't have her, I don't know if I'd be a Christian today. Like, quite honestly, she was the first exposure to someone who could sit with my doubts and my questions and not solve it for me, or not try to solve it for me, which ended up becoming, inspired me to organically in the church, that kind of became my ministry, was sitting with people in their, what we call now deconstruction, right? That's what some people call it, it's a buzzword, or their disorientation.
That's so interesting. Yeah, similarly, I came back from that summer of interning at the church I grew up in, and I came back having a really kind of horrendous internship as a woman at that church, and came back and had amazing female mentors that were just helping me along, and I had a ministry class where we were talking about women in the church, and I shared, oh, well, my church just isn't ready, and I was defending them, they're just not ready. And my class raged and lamented, and they were so furious, and I was just kind of in shock, and I don't know, I think they used words, there's no kids, I won't say it though, but they're like, this is BS, absolutely not, this is ridiculous. And so coming back and then learning, okay, yeah, that was BS, I am equal. That was just the start for me of finding my own equality, helped me see and advocate for other people. So that was just a huge shift. So then, okay, great. This used to be the hottest topic of are women equal? Am I equal? And it became less hot for me, because I felt more comfortable and more safe in my own skin of course I'm equal. And so then I started to, when I was in college, it was the time of Ferguson. So then I started going to Black Student Union and learning about systemic racism. And then I started going, coming alongside my queer friends of the university and learning about that. And I found that, the more I'm settled in my own identity that I belong, and I don't buy into the BS that I'm an inconvenience, the more advocacy and solidarity I can do with other folks, especially other marginalized groups. And this was a huge learning lesson for me too. When I went to the East Coast for grad school, the folks that I found most solidarity in championing me and helping me in my own life and career were so many Black women in my seminary that were teaching me, hey, we've been doing this for many decades, let's teach you how we're doing this. It was Hindu and Muslim women in a neighborhood in North Cambridge I worked with that were teaching me all about women coming together and providing meals for their communities. And then in recent years, there's a women and non-binary group that I've been a part of that has just taught me so much about queerness and how queerness expands our understanding. And it's probably one of the groups I've been a part of where sometimes I feel a little bit of like an awkward duck with like all female groups of like, like sometimes it's just, I don't know, a thing. But being a part of this group where queerness is at the center has been one of the most comfortable and settled in myself I've ever been. And so, yeah, that's just been a huge part of solidarity I've learned from is once I have my own identity, I'm like learning from everyone else that's been doing it decades before me, and yeah, but don't
Yeah, no, I want to jump off of that because you were talking about how it's helped kind of been like your launching pad into advocacy work and justice work with other groups who are marginalized and oppressed in our communities. And I think what was really powerful for me to be able to say yes to women in ministry, yes to my own place in ministry, was it helped me be able to explore my queerness. And I was able to be open with realizing, oh my gosh, I am queer too. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't take that first step into acknowledging that I was allowed. Not just allowed, I was invited to also take to participate in belonging as a leader.
Yeah, so interesting too. I remember feeling so dysregulated by the patriarchy, and just feeling like when I talked to, I don't know, sometimes Evangel bros, like the guys that I knew were not about my equality. Like I just felt so like fired up. I'm like, they don't believe women should be in leadership. I've got Deborah, I've got Mary and Martha. Like I just was like, I'm ready, I'm coming. And it's interesting, the more that I have felt settled and seeing God as divinely feminine, divinely queer, God as so much more expansive than this man in the sky, and the more I felt comfortable in my identity, the more that's actually not the hot topic, and I'm way more interested in other, and again, the work is always needed to be done. Donna and I, within this last week, have been like told really sexist things as female pastors. So this is a constant, yes. And in progressive spaces too. Like we've both been a part of places where it's like just, yeah, the work is always there. But the point of it is like there's this solidarity we get to learn from of women coming together that invites us into deeper forms of liberation beyond us and beyond this singular identity of, I don't know, feminism 101, I guess, yeah. Okay, so I need to reorient towards my questions.
Doing great.
Oh, yes. I know, is this interesting to learn about?
Yeah.
It's okay. If you understand you don't like hearing from two female pastors, that's fine. I'm kidding, we're amazing. She said it, I didn't. Yeah, I'm joking. Yeah, I would love to hear, Donna, just what obstacles do you still see in faith communities, and how do we push forward for advocacy for women?
The word that comes to mind for me is gatekeeping. So part of my story I didn't share was that I didn't go to seminary, and part of the reason why yeah, so I didn't go to seminary. I have a master's in communications, which is actually very similar. But anyways, so I think what's interesting is when I started this pastor journey, I didn't realize how many obstacles. It's not just women; it's so many different marginalized folks who don't have the opportunities growing up to. I wasn't pointing you like you had this, but like people that get asked at 19, hey, do you want to like go to seminary, or do you want to? We didn't. A lot of us don't have that, especially women don't have that avenue. Like we usually kind of go this windy road. And so my story is finding my identity and my place as a woman in ministry and accepting that there are going to be things that people might not like about me because I didn't go to seminary, and that's okay. And there's going to be ways in which we can collaborate as a community to fill in the gaps when someone has something that doesn't quite add up in the ways that we expect them to. And as I read scripture and I understand scripture, I just always see God using the least likely people for things. And I feel like that's such a theme. And so it just makes sense to me that so many of us here at Shock are doing incredible things. Because a lot of us are those people, right? A lot of us are those people that we think of as unexpected, right? People doing God's work, or unexpected people doing justice and goodness in the world. And so that theme has just really blanketed my ministry, and just realizing, okay, how do I, because of the barriers and obstacles that I've seen people face and myself face, how do I break down those obstacles for others? And so a lot of my ministry is like trying to figure out what are good expectations and what are just not great, obstacles that people have to go through. And so that's something that I've been navigating.
Yeah, thanks. It's been so fun working with Donna. She often says this phrase that the future of ministry is collaborative, not competitive. And when I started working with Donna, I was a little surprised at her approach. For those of you that maybe have worked in team dynamics where, it's like, well, I want to be there's just competition in different team dynamics. And that has not been the case with Donna. And to the point, and this is one of the things that's really interesting, is both of us have been wounded as women in the church, and at some points of our own stories have felt like we have something to prove, right? And so even the success of Shock, to a certain point, is like, we wanted this to do well. At least I can speak for myself, we want this to do well. And what's really interesting is in this team dynamic, we get to learn of really holding what's true about our stories, but also being in a collaborative, not competitive, solidarity-like work environment. So this means releasing perfectionism. This means championing one another on. This means also fielding, hey, this guy said this thing to me. Last week I literally got asked by someone, where is your male pastor? He was like, can you point me to your...
For this church?
No, for a different church, yes. For a different church. He was like, where is your male pastor? And I was like, what? So it was just so strange. But this is part of what it means. Seeped into our tradition, there is just, in the imagination, that there is supposed to be a male-centric, right? Or that patriarchy and colonialism are at the center. And part of what we're all doing is learning how to break free from that. So this week I had a couple family crises, and I was like, Donna, Stephen, I don't think I have what I need to preach a sermon. And Donna's like, we'll be fine. We're just gonna talk. And we just all and Stephen helped us work through this. But that's kind of the spirit too of this solidarity. And as we reimagine church, is releasing from perfectionism and releasing from the tyranny of proving the people that told us we shouldn't be here wrong, right? It's we don't have to prove them right anymore.
No, and that's, I think, one of the biggest things I'm noticing that we, as just people, struggle with when it comes to leaving other churches or leaving some of these toxic structures or systems, is there's still that feeling, oh, I need to prove myself, or I need to prove that this is good, because they're telling me it's not. And once, as I've been in this safe and secure place at Shock, to rest, restore, belong, and become, I've been realizing I no longer need to prove that to others. I don't really have conversations about whether women should be in ministry or not. I think I still have conversations around queerness, even though sometimes that's hard for me as a queer person. But there are just conversations I'm too tired to have now, And so it's just, I think once we start to heal, we start to realize we do not need to. We're safe. We are safe. We do not need to defend what we are doing, what we believe now, and that's a response to, just a lot of trauma that we've experienced.
Yeah, thanks for that. The obstacles are still there. There are still Bible verses that really we can't get around. Similar as we study clobber passages, right? There's things everywhere. There's a lot in the Bible. There's a lot in our tradition. There's a lot in ordination process. A lot of my friends that are females and queer and so many others, just basically not a cis het white man, really struggle with getting ordained, like the long formal multi-year process. There's just a lot. There's variables with like maternity leave. I know so many women in ministry that don't get a maternity leave. There's just a lot of obstacles. So we want to invite our community right now to be thinking about what does it mean to really pay attention and to take seriously women in our faith community. What does it mean to go, wow, looking at the Bible, yes, there's a lot of Bible verses that could be interpreted as really oppressive towards women. And yet there's these stories like the 5 fearless sisters, where there's these kick-ass women banding together and saying, no, this is our land. We belong. What does it mean for us as a community to pay attention? Is it the way we're voting? Is it looking for opportunities in our community, or simply seeing how we exist here now, or the language we use to describe God? There's a lot of ways we get to participate in thinking about women in solidarity, and that this solidarity is not a white woman feminism that is just about these women succeeding, but it invites deeper liberation for all people that's working against systemic patriarchy and colonialism. So, if you have been here before, you know this, you know what's about to happen. Yes, sigh. We are going to invite you right now, if you feel comfortable, to turn to a few neighbors. I always say maximum 4, and then there's always just like a group of 10. So whatever. Do it however many people you want to talk to. Turn to your neighbors, and you're going to do these discussion questions. Now, if you came here and you are not in the mood to chat, what do? Thumbs down. Put that thumbs down. You do not need to talk to your neighbors. If you came here maybe with a friend or a partner and you only want to talk to them, just go, we're just sticking in conversation, just a little pod. And that's fine. We're not going to be offended by that. So we're going to take a couple minutes. We're going to talk about these questions. How do you see the courage of the 5 fearless sisters reflected in the lives of women you know today? How do you show up for and advocate for women in our communities? And then we'll come back in a few minutes and close out with some communion and music. All right. Thanks all. Thanks everyone. You can turn to neighbors. Thanks.
I just think about my sister, like, I always feel like she's in a perfect right? Because she has to go through a lot, like being in a male society, but she's still able to succeed as a woman, and able to get advice and get sometimes, like, you need those people, like a sister or like a mother who's raised to lift you up in a way that so, like, for me, I just think of my sister.
For me, I think of one of my best friends, Marianne. She's like an entrepreneur. She's kind of like actively like trying to change things for like women and like minorities. businesses that really helps those. It's very inspiring. Even very, like, there's obviously it's a very difficult way to like make a living and be successful in spaces, especially now. And so just inviting and like you have their ups and downs, but like her personality is so
Yeah, like I feel like I used to feel a sense of obligation to go to church every Sunday. And in some ways that I didn't realize that I used to hurt me too, but I think I like how the business days don't have some complicated people go in and just make it just like I know that I'm just like worth it. Sometimes people say, oh, you just like you're really fair or whatever, and it's like step out and it's like, yeah, it's like not all communities have that experience.
Sometimes you probably have to speak up, like, especially in random there's like some law instead of not saying anything, not just like me, like talk about the pros, about like what's going on.
I don't know what it's I didn't know this though. I have been very fortunate in South American Christian spaces for 10 years or so. I always thought that was kind of normal for like had thing like
Was it like just a few years ago they allowed there was a lot of other big events that they still have yeah, it's but you don't invest no, it's officially a pressure because we sell that record operations, so they got that I mean, they still don't have some games. So it's still a real thing. It's not like you don't have to tell me
I think Donna got
I don't think that those 5 fearless women are the ones that I was trying to work with to get everything outside of themselves and express on their church and for them being
Is it your first time? Oh, shoot. Oh, okay. How long has it been?
I don't know, honestly.
Go ahead and wrap up your conversation.
Years now, but we tried to.
They're the ones who, yeah, they're the ones who
Okay. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, for you in your groups? Angel?
We actually talked about both of you. Dottie and Donna. We all are in agreement that you are both amazing and inspiring, and both what we've heard from you in the past and seen from you is just really great. And then also we really enjoyed hearing your stories today.
Thank you. That was really kind. I really appreciate that. It's vulnerable sometimes sharing. I went to Donna, I don't know if it was okay, I don't know if I liked it, so. I'm a confident person, but I also question myself sometimes. Okay. Anyone else want to share what were things that came up? Yeah.
It's just interesting to me that this is not like core canon. I've never heard of this story in all the years that I have gone to church. And I was just joking with Donna of like, but this would be a great VeggieTales, you know? Why do you not see this story like of a family of asparagus fighting for their rights? This would be perfect, but it's just, so it's just like, oh, it was great. I just feel like I came to a point where it's like I'm never going to hear a new Bible story, and then I've never heard of this before, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, we could spend months just on this story. And what was it? Did you say asparagus?
Wouldn't this be a great VeggieTales episode? You know, it would be great, but I've just never heard of it.
Cartoon for children.
Yes.
Uses vegetables.
Charles.
Yeah, I really loved your story about how after you came back from the internship and you had all of those women be very upset and reflect that back to you. And I sometimes find that one of the best roles that I can occupy is getting mad and upset on other people's behalf and being able to reflect back, oh no, what's happening to you isn't right. Because a lot of times, especially if there's just so much of it, it just really does weigh down on people, you know. And so I really love that example you shared.
Thanks. And what's fun is actually in that class, it was the men that were most upset. And that was really, really healing. Yeah, and again, I can remember the guy, Austin, that was the one that said this is BS and got really rageful. And I felt so seen in that rage. Oh my gosh, Gabe, what are you saying?
I said good for Austin.
Good for Austin. That's the way Austin. All right, snaps for Austin. And snaps for just all of the people that are just showing us solidarity, helping us imagine new ways of advocacy that go beyond just women banding together, but really help us imagine how we mobilize in times like these, which means sticking together, being creative, reclaiming stories that should be VeggieTales stories. They're awesome. Yeah, I'm going to pray and then we'll do some communion. God, our Mother, God that's non-binary and queer and wonderful, and God, we are grateful for these stories. While we have been taught so many stories where women aren't present or they're just side characters, thank you for a story like this that we get to hold on to and appreciate. Of these 5 sisters coming together in solidarity for justice in really practical ways, finding their own identity and their rights. Help us in these troubling times be deeply connected to community. Help us keep our imagination alive. Help us see the ways we need to rage. Help us see the ways we need to advocate for rights. Help us see the ways that people in our own communities are being, mistreated, a lack of paid leave, or whatever it is. Help us see and be creative and be together. Be with us. Amen. So So, this is a time of communion. Anyone is participated to join us in this time. If you don't have communion materials, feel free to just put your hand up if you want to participate, and folks will come around. Yeah, so this is a time where we come to the table. It's a table of, deep friendship and solidarity, where Jesus invites us to come to. Jesus, a huge fan of women in leadership, in my opinion, invites us to this table. And on the night that Jesus was betrayed, he took the bread and he said, "This is my body in solidarity for you. Take this in remembrance of me." So we break the bread and take it. And in that same way, Jesus said, "This is my blood." And so much solidarity and love and affirmation for you. Drink this in remembrance of me. So we drink it. And as we do, may we feel deeply connected to our own stories and the stories here, and keep moving towards rich solidarity and advocacy. Amen.
You
gonna try something different. This is our first time we're gonna try a liturgical congregational reading. For those of you guys who don't know what liturgy means, all it means is just practices done within a church service. And so we're gonna try kind of a call response this morning, kind of celebrating women, especially because it's Women's History Month this month. And so Alicia's gonna lead us. So anytime you see all, you guys are gonna say the words with us. And then if it's just reader, it'll just be Alicia. You guys all down to try that? You guys don't be loud though, okay?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Who shall find a valiant woman? Who shall find a valiant woman?
Look, we are all around you, in the workrooms of industry and of every functioning enterprise, unheralded, invisible, some say non-existent, but we know otherwise.
Who shall find a valiant woman?
Look, we are all around you, contributing, setting standards, changing the course of history, preparing, supporting, challenging those resentful of our collegial claims and capabilities.
Who shall find a valiant woman?
Look, we are all around you. Women of courage, compassionate, patient, our number is legion. Our gifts are diverse. Our goal, one and the same, that history is cognizant of. That history will one day recall our names. We honor the women of the Hebrew Scriptures, especially Mary, the mother of Jesus, whose courage, persistence, love, and fidelity kept the lineage of faith alive. We honor the women of Jesus' time, who cared for the community of believers, who followed Jesus to Calvary, who buried him, who proclaimed Jesus' resurrection, who passed the gospel to their families, friends, and strangers. We honor the valiant women of our own time, who nudge us back on track, who remind us of the promises of Christ, who claim the gospel for women too, who preach the reality of wholeness, who strain against a patriarchal church, who challenge us to grow.
Living God, today we gather in and among your presence. Valiant women throughout the world, all gathered here to raise our voices in global petition for your promise of wholeness, the fullness of life, to be realized in all our world, in our nations, and in our lives. This we pray in your name. Amen.
You see me when I'm unnoticed. You hear me when I've been silenced. Oh, you hold me when I'm discarded by my side. When I'm feeling left behind, no matter how far No matter how dark, your hope is reaching to my heart. You call me your child, the light in your eyes. Since the beginning of all time, the God sees me, the God who sees me, the God who sees me, the God who sees
Round of applause. Round of applause for our worship team. Are we on?
SOS. Here, do you need help?
I do. I have one job.
It's saying it's sad.
It's
We need a new mic.
I'm still gonna get it.
Yeah.
The mic is depressed.
It's in distress.
Alright. Hi guys, my name is Kay. I'm just up here to do some announcements, read through a little benediction, and we're going to talk about lunch. So, on Wednesdays, we have Haven as our LGBTQ small group. All are welcome. We're reading through the Book of Belonging, analyzing it through a queer lens, looking into justice, education, some more Book of Belonging. We're going to do a check-in dinner, and last week we're doing an underground justice group, which is separate from shop, but still has a lot of people from shop there. But yeah, those are typically Wednesdays, dinner at 6:30, and 7 p.m. discussion at Donna's. Yes?
Would you explain girl dinner for people who might know what the TikTok reference is?
I don't know that I'll do it justice.
Are other people allowed? Basically, girl dinner is a TikTok trend, and it's not just for girls. All genders and orientations welcome.
Thank you, Alicia.
Alright, and on non-service Sundays, we have yoga taught by Ryan. Raise your hand if you guys are interested in doing yoga on a non-service Sunday. Ask Ryan, he's over there. Alright, and Wednesday mornings we have a small group at Donna's house. They do theology discussion. And Sunday morning coffee house. So again, looks like 10 a.m. on the second and fourth Sunday of every month. We have a family-friendly space where you can have coffee, pastries, conversation, bring people together, and a place to just connect, relax, and make new friends. I have not gone yet, but I've heard very good things about it. You can come as you are. I know we're going to have daylight savings coming up. We're going to be losing some time, so feeling 9 a.m. So if you want to come, show up, be a little grumpy and a little tired, that's okay. And finally, we have our Discord. If you'd like to join, stay connected, get some more information, you're welcome to scan that QR code there. And if you would like to support Shock, we have multiple ways you can do that. We recently put up a financial transparency page on our website. It helps you kind of understand where exactly your money is going and different ways that you can support Shock. And finally, just want to read through our benediction. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make their face shine upon you and be gracious to you. And may the Lord lift up her countenance upon you and give you peace. All right, and with that, we're going to be going to potato from Spain. All are welcome. If you want to just come for vibes, you don't really want to get lunch, you just want to be there, you're welcome to hang out. You can also bring your own lunch, but we'd love to see you there.